Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Meaningful Communication Show. We are at the halfway point in our countdown of communication failure reasons. Today, we're going to talk about number three, and that is that there is more to engagement than being funny. There is a school of thought out there, and you can find it pretty easily, that to be good at communication, to be good at sales, for example, you got to get people to laugh. You've got to tell a joke, something of that accord, and that it's key to getting people to like you. It's bullcrap. While it's can definitely be powerful if you can tell a joke and get people to laugh, it's not the silver bullet to everything, and it can help you break down barriers. But it's only one of many different ways of doing this. It's not the only way, and there's a couple of problems with the be funny concept. First, to be honest, most people just aren't funny. They can't pull it off. They might read jokes out of a joke book or something like that, but it doesn't. It's got to be organic for it to work, and it's a skill that people can learn. At least many people can learn. The question really becomes is how do you play to your strengths that you have versus what do you want to learn and what do you need to learn and how well could you do it. Some people are not comfortable being funny, and that's okay. It's not something that a lot of people can do. That's why comedians are popular. They can do something that most people can't. There are also a lot of situations in which being funny is simply not appropriate. It can be in poor taste at best, or it can be deeply hurtful at worst. Making jokes about other people at their expense, it's generally not the best way to go. If you're going to make fun of someone, the better idea is to make fun of yourself. You have your own permission to make fun of yourself. And that also displays a level of humility that can be appreciated by people. The other thing to keep in mind too about being funny, telling jokes, is funny can really depend on context. And some people might try and use the same shtick in all their different presentations and all their different sales pitches, whatever they might be, and they don't necessarily work in all the different events. And that can create their own problems. Now, a couple of quick side notes here. There are a couple of exceptions that bear some understanding, but also some caution. There are groups of people who make jokes in their groups that people outside of them would not appreciate, might consider them to be rude, insensitive, even macabre. This is often a coping and bonding mechanism. You'll see this in groups such as military veterans, police officers, athletes on a sports team, and many other groups. And this isn't a judging of right or wrong, it just is. Now, where the caution comes in here, if you happen to hear something from one of these groups and you're not part of the group and you kind of overheard it, you have to take that with a grain of salt. You were not the intended audience. And if you try to impose your moral code on that group, it's probably not going to go far. If you're not a member of that group, they're not going to care. But also, if you are a member of a group that may have off-color humor, and there's a difference between off-color and really inappropriate, but know who your audience is and know what is acceptable and what is not when you say different things. So just put that in a box and keep it on the side and keep that in mind. That can be an issue that can definitely be a cultural issue when people change between cultures, such as when people get out of the military and re-enter the civilian workforce, and other examples such as that. So something to be aware of. Like I said, it's not a right or wrong thing. It's just kind of an is thing, and it's something just to be aware of. If you are a member of one of those groups or you inadvertently are exposed to something that is very different than what you're used to. Now, talking about joking, It's also natural that we talk about humor. And humor is not necessarily the same as joking. Yes, it's an entertaining, interaction, but there's a couple of differences. And just to simplify it for the sake of discussion here, think of joking as a fast burn, like a match. And it's something that goes off, it's haha, it's funny, and then it's over. Think of humor more as a slow burn, as a log on a fire, something that usually takes longer to relate, and it can also have a longer impact. These are good if they're based on your experiences and your stories. Definitely you don't want to recycle someone else's humorous stories or engagements or experiences and pass them off as your own. That's a no-no. But most of us have experiences that can be humorous to share. The great thing is if it's your story, it's your story. You don't have to worry about any kind of lifting it from somebody and not giving them credit. And it's easier to be humorous than it is to be funny. Examples of some humor might be fish out of water story. You're in a different environment, different country, maybe a different language experience. There's things along that line that are much more prevalent with people and easier to share that people can relate to. Now, humor is, we're touching a subject that a lot of people aren't comfortable with. And this is especially true of people that are more technically oriented, more in the STEM industries. And that is, it has to do with feelings. You tell that humorous story to where you get the smile and a nod and agreement, or if you're successful and good at jokes organically, not being forced, you get that, that's that laughter. But a lot of people are hesitant to unlock that aspect of their personality and that skill set, whereas they want to stay strictly to the facts. And like I said, especially in a technically oriented world, also in one where a lot of people are afraid of offending people, people will shy away from that, which is a shame. It's a missed opportunity. And this is how we get to know each other better. Plus, it can be fun and really liberating. So what are some of the other ways that we can connect with people? And we'll talk about just 4 real briefly here. If people leave you with a happy feeling, so that can include humor, that can include jokes, it can include feel-good stories, someone rising up against the odds, someone's sad, like there was a tragedy involved in why you want to achieve that desired outcome, which, remember, everything about your communication is about the desired outcome that you want to achieve. So you want to use these feelings in cooperation with that. And it's not being exploitive, it's making that connection, establishing that bond. And when people have an emotional connection to a communication, they're more likely to remember it. And that's a really important factor versus just spewing facts at somebody. So we talked about making somebody happy. It could be a sad story that motivates people. It might make people angry. It could be something that, strikes at their beliefs and what they think is right and wrong and how they want to correct it. Another thing could be a story of pride. And when you find ways to connect your desired outcome to the people that you're connecting with, that engagement is what crosses that chasm, is what crosses that gap between the desired outcome and your audience, and can really inspire them to work to help you make that desired outcome a reality. So it's important to remember when we talk about engagement, with connecting with people, with motivating people, it's so much more than just being funny. And that's really important because, like I said, most of us aren't that funny. No matter what your mom might tell you or what your friends might tell you, it's a fairly rare skill where people do it well, especially in a professional environment. The comedians on stage can be funny, but it's a different environment. So it can be powerful if you can do it well, if you can do it organically, but there's so many other ways to engage people. Humor is powerful, especially with your own story. And then when you connect with people on an emotional level, they're so much more likely to remember what your communication is, what you want them to do, that desired outcome, and help you make that a reality. Next week, we're going to be back with number 2 in our communication failure reason countdown. This is Chad Eves wishing you wealth and health and prosperity and good communication skills as we all work on improving this for each other together. Talk to you next week.